Move to question number 5, Dr Russel Norman.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Economic Development. Will he implement the recommendations for jobs and economic development made in Greenpeace's Energy Revolution report, researched and co-authored by the German Aerospace Centre, advisors to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, and the University of Technology, Sydney?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, first I'm pleased to advise the member that New Zealand has and has been for some time investing more in renewable energy and environmentally friendly technology. For example, this government has a target of 90% renewable energy by 2025, and renewables make up currently about 77% of our electricity generation, which is actually the second highest in the OECD. We've also implemented and invested around $347 million in the Warm Up New Zealand Heat Smart program. However, the trouble with the report, as I read it, is it introduces massive additional subsidies and costs to the New Zealand economy and would be dislocating in terms of additional costs on New Zealand households and businesses.
Supplementary, Dr Russel Norman.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Does he agree with the report's main findings that New Zealand has the right mix of resources and talent to become a world leader in achieving a low-carbon, prosperous economy, creating new jobs and industries that will not only deal with the issues of climate change but also some of the economic challenges facing New Zealand?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, I agree with him to the extent that I believe New Zealand has the right mix of talent and expertise to achieve in a whole range of industries. And the government has a view that the investment in industries is led largely by the private sector, of course, who are placing their own money at risk, and that investment tends to flow to the areas where investment can be profitable and industries can be profitable. And the difficulty in actually trying to direct it away from those areas, in fact, that involves very considerable cost to taxpayers, either directly or indirectly.
Supplementary question, Dr Russel Norman.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. That being the case, why does the government continue to invest in areas such as motorways, the roads of national significance, which consistently, or a number of the projects show, have greater costs than benefits, and also increase New Zealand's carbon footprint rather than investing in transport options that would reduce our greenhouse emissions and reduce our oil imports?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr Speaker, a couple of points there. Firstly, my understanding as a former Transport Minister is that they have very significant benefits over costs, particularly compared with some of the public transport projects the member advocates. Of course, the government is not just investing in roading projects, but I will point out again, and I think it was addressed previously by the Finance Minister, that actually those that use the roads pay for those investments. We do invest in public transport, but it's important to note that those that use public transport in many cases pay less than half the cost. It has to be an ongoing subsidy. So I think you're suggesting that there be even more subsidies to transport modes that people do not use voluntarily and in fact pay for voluntarily.
Supplementary question, Dr Russel Norman.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. In light of the difficult jobs creation record of the government, no new jobs in 4 years, will the government consider adopting a different economic strategy rather than the current one, backing the mining industry, for example, and actually look at manufacturing, a much larger employer, and particularly clean technology manufacturing, as an alternative, given that so far the government strategy has failed to produce the jobs?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, my response to that is firstly that we have very significant investment in this country in clean technologies. In fact, I could name the member any number of companies which are developing further and investing further in jobs and growth in the New Zealand economy right now. But the member again seems to be suggesting that the government subsidise jobs in industries where they wouldn't otherwise occur, and that's an answer for economic nirvana in some way, and actually move jobs away from industries where they're prepared to invest in those industries without government subsidy. Now, with the greatest respect, that's a recipe to head the country to the poorhouse.
Supplementary question, Dr Russel Norman.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. With regard to subsidies, is he aware that in his previous answers, and the Minister of Finance and the Prime Minister's previous answers, they have given us a long list of particular sectors that the government is subsidising? The mining sector is, of course, the favourite of the government. And why is it that it's okay for the government to subsidise areas such as mining, whereas they're quite hostile to providing even a level playing field to the clean technology sector?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, with the greatest respect to the member, we're not subsidising the mining sector. In actual fact, all we're not doing is putting the extra costs that the member would advocate on the mining sector, and somehow that's supposed to be a subsidy, which is just, with the greatest respect, up there with printing money and economic ludicrousness.
I move to question number 6 in the name of the Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Mr. Speaker, this question